In a world where football idols shine like rock stars, with flash bulbs, Ferraris, and Instagram followers, one man quietly walked among giants, changing the game forever without ever demanding the spotlight. He didn't scream after scoring. He didn't dance in front of cameras. He didn't care about headlines. While others chased fame, he chased perfection. While others built brands, he built history. Andrés Iniesta wasn't just a footballer. He was an emotion, subtle, elegant, and devastatingly effective. He wasn't the tallest, the strongest, or the fastest. But when the game needed a savior, when legends around him froze under pressure, it was always Iniesta who stepped forward, not with noise, but with silence. He made passes that defied physics. He created space where there was none. He moved like music and thought like a chess master. And when a nation waited for a miracle, it was this quiet man from a tiny Spanish village who delivered eternal glory with a single, unforgettable strike. This is not just the story of a footballer. This is the story of Andrés Iniesta, the silent architect behind Spain's golden era. The boy from Fuentealbilla, in the humble town of Fuentealbilla, population barely over 1,000, a boy was born who would go on to change football forever. Iniesta's childhood wasn't bathed in luxury. His parents were hardworking and grounded. His father, José Antonio, owned a modest business and supported his son's love for football, even when it meant sending him away at just 12 years old. La Masia, the famed Barcelona academy, became his new home. But for young Andrés, it felt more like exile than opportunity. He cried himself to sleep every night for weeks, longing for home. But he didn't quit. He couldn't. Something inside him whispered, "Stay, endure." And so he did. He endured the homesickness, the pressure, the expectation. And in the quiet corners of La Masia, he began crafting his own version of the beautiful game. Rising in silence, by the time he was 16, Iniesta had already turned heads at Barcelona. Pep Guardiola, then a player himself, saw him once and said to Xavi, "You're going to retire me, but this kid, he's going to retire us both." Iniesta didn't have the physical dominance of other players. He wasn't built like a gladiator. But what he had couldn't be measured by muscle. He could see spaces before they opened, passes before they were possible. His brain was a second ahead of the game, always. He made his first team debut for Barcelona in 2002. It wasn't explosive, it wasn't headline-grabbing, but it was the beginning of something extraordinary. Iniesta didn't seek attention. He simply wanted to play the game the way it was meant to be played, with intelligence, grace, and selflessness. The Xavi Iniesta symphony, they were called the midfield metronomes, but even that felt like an understatement. Together, Xavi and Iniesta turned midfield into poetry. One controlled the rhythm, the other painted the picture. They didn't just pass, they composed. Barcelona under Frank Rijkaard and later under Pep Guardiola evolved into a symphony of possession and precision. And Iniesta, always the quietest man in the room, became the soul of it all. But while trophies came at club level, something even bigger was on the horizon. Something that would etch Iniesta's name into football eternity. Spain's revolution, Spain was always talented, but for decades they had been underachievers on the international stage. That changed in 2008. Under Luis Aragonés, Spain unleashed their golden generation, a team built on technical brilliance and collective understanding. They won Euro 2008, and Iniesta was instrumental, but still the best was yet to come. In 2010, the world turned to South Africa for the biggest stage of all, the FIFA World Cup. And Spain, driven by the magic of midfield, was determined to make history. Iniesta wasn't just a passenger in this journey. He was the engine, the artist, and, as it turned out, the eventual savior. The goal that made a nation cry, July 11, 2010. Soccer City, Johannesburg. World Cup final, Spain versus Netherlands. A brutal, tense, suffocating match. The minutes dragged, the tackles flew, extra time arrived, and a nation held its breath. Then, in the 116th minute, a pass came in from Cesc Fabregas. Iniesta controlled it with the calm of a monk. One touch, then another, and then the shot. The ball hit the net. Time froze. Andrés Iniesta had just won the World Cup for Spain. He tore off his shirt. Underneath was a message. Dani Jarque, siempre con nosotros. Dani Jarque, his friend and former teammate, had passed away tragically the year before. In his moment of ultimate glory, Iniesta dedicated it to someone else. The world watched, and millions wept. Not just because Spain had won, but because the man who won it did so with unmatched humility. The gentleman of football, Iniesta, didn't change after the goal. He didn't chase fame. He didn't demand more. He kept playing the way he always had, quietly, intelligently, beautifully. At Barcelona, he added more trophies, La Liga titles, Champions Leagues, Copa del Reys. He was the heartbeat of the most dominant club side in history. When Guardiola's Barcelona beat Manchester United 3-1 in the 2011 Champions League final, Sir Alex Ferguson said, "They give us a lesson in how to play football." And Iniesta, he didn't say a word. He just smiled. Off the pitch, he was universally respected by teammates, by opponents, by fans across the world. He never dove, never complained, never played dirty. He played fair, and he played smart. Pain behind the genius, but behind Iniesta's calm exterior, there was pain. In 2009, he struggled with injuries. Then came anxiety, depression. After Dani Jarque's death, the grief consumed him. He once said, "You feel like nothing makes sense, like the world is falling down on you." Most people never knew. He kept it inside, but he fought through it, just like he did at La Masia as a child. He didn't hide from his demons. He faced them. And every time he stepped onto the pitch, he played not just for joy, but for healing. Farewell, but not goodbye. In 2018, the inevitable day arrived. Iniesta played his final match for Barcelona. The Camp Nou stood in tears. Opponents applauded. Teammates hugged. He left with 32 trophies, countless unforgettable moments, and the love of millions. But he wasn't done. He went to Japan, to Vissel Kobe, not for money, not for fame, but for the love of the game. Even there, far from Europe's bright lights, Iniesta dazzled. He continued to inspire. He wasn't just a footballer. He was a living philosophy, humility, grace, and silent excellence. Legacy of the quiet hero, Andrés Iniesta never won a Ballon d'Or. He never demanded individual glory. But when FIFA asked players and fans to vote for their greatest World Cup moment, his goal in 2010 topped the list. Because football, at its core, isn't just about goals and stats. It's about emotion, about memory, about the magic that lingers long after the final whistle. Iniesta's legacy isn't in numbers, it's in hearts. In the boy who learned to believe, in the fan who fell in love with the game, in the silence after his goal, the kind of silence that speaks louder than any cheer. He was never the loudest voice, but he was the clearest one. In an era of egos and headlines, Andrés Iniesta reminded the world that greatness doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply plays. Years from now, when fans talk about football's greatest era, they'll mention tiki-taka, they'll speak of Barcelona's dominance, and they'll remember Spain's golden reign. But hidden in every pass, every victory, every trophy, will be the invisible fingerprints of Andrés Iniesta. He wasn't the loudest voice in the room. He wasn't chasing fame, money, or headlines. He simply played for the love of the game. And maybe that's why he touched so many hearts. Because in a world obsessed with noise, Iniesta was proof that greatness doesn't need to shout. It only needs a ball, a quiet mind, and the courage to stay true to yourself. If this story moved you, there are many more legends whose stories deserve to be remembered. Not just for what they won, but for how they played the game. Subscribe to the channel and discover the souls behind the shirts, the emotion behind the moments, and the forgotten poetry in football's most beautiful tales. Because the game isn't just about goals, it's about those rare, magical players who played with heart and left behind history.